Okay, so this brief little Tegrity lecture is going to show you how to create a lab so that you can document all of your skills. This can be used to document a lab before you do it or after you do it. And remember, for our purposes, a lab is any time we do anything practical, hands-on in class, you'll be expected to keep track of these records. At the end of the semester, as we go through and you don't have any of these skills turned in on a regular basis, we have no documentation of what skills you did, so you might not make it through the semester. I have a student pulled up, one of our students in the other cohort, so some of the things are going to look a little different as far as actual numbers, but as you can see from your home page, what we're trying to do is manage my labs. So go down here to click Manage My Labs. Then you have the opportunity of viewing some of the different labs, and you'll see that these are awaiting approval, so I haven't approved these labs yet. And what I'm going to have you do is go in and add a new lab because you're creating this on your own. So add a new lab and let it run for the creation page. And then now you're just going to have all of your summaries. So as you come down in here, you would select your lab class, which you should only have one class to select from. Yours is going to say EMS 130. Also for your lab date, you're going to set the appropriate date. So it doesn't really matter. You can select, what this is example, so select any Friday. I will go back and select a Friday that existed in the past. So we'll just set that as a date. We'll come down here as to what the title of the lab date was. So off of the syllabus, whatever the title of that lab said, that's what you need to put in lab title. So if we said IV access, we'll put that there. Then description, you can say practiced IV starts, if I can spell a little bit here, on mannequins. No. Get too fast. And live IV starts on each. Then just click Save and Next. It'll take you into the next page. Now what you have to do is your skills lab, or your lab skills entry. So out of all of these possible skills, you'd select whatever you did appropriately for the lab. Now the IV lab, you may not have done a tremendous amount. For instance, you probably just did IV access. So let's come down here and say that you did 10 IVs that day. That might be all you did. When we get to the airway, you can see though how all of these things are going to be multiple things. So you might have checked capillary refill, nasal cannulas, combi tube removals. So some days you're going to have a lot of these skills that you would have performed throughout the assessments. So we've got 10 IV accesses down here. So all we're going to do is come down to Save and Next. Let that process. Then you have the opportunity to download documents or to upload documents. Now we're not really doing this right now. We'll see how this progresses in the course, but if you click on this file for download, what's going to happen is you're going to get the opportunity to open a PDF file that actually allows editing and filling things in, talking about all of the steps for IV insertion. So you can read through here. This is going to be in accordance with the National Registry skill sheets. So this is really what we're evaluating you on as far as looking at your skills. So if you have any deficiencies in these areas, this is what we would bring up. However, we're not using this sheet for every single practice. This is the standard that you will be held to when you do your final testing at the end of this semester, though. So take a look at that, see what you want to do. Eventually, we'll have some of these forms that you'll have to have filled out or use in class. But again, since we're not really doing much as far as the uploading files yet, you can usually just click the Save and Next. So we click that. It takes a second, it loads it up, and then now we've got our summary. We would have our date, we would have everything turned in, so we would just click Submit Lab Documentation. It should take a few seconds, and now you have Submit Lab Documentation, so you have it down here as far as IV access. Notice that it's still awaiting approval, so if we pause this for a second, I'll show you what it's going to turn to in just a second once I approve it. Okay, so now after going back in as my instructor account, I've logged back in. Okay, so now after going back in as my instructor account, I've logged back in as the student account. I can go into Manage My Labs, and then I can come in here and I can look at potential future labs, which is going to be one on Friday. Any labs that there's any documentation available, a lab that there's awaiting approval, and then my documentation completed, which means this has been completely approved. So these would be logged into your reports. That's pretty much everything you need to do in order to create a lab and get credit for those skills. If there's any problem with the lab reports, I can kick it back to you to have you redo it and then resubmit it. But as long as you're redoing your documentation, one of the things we'll look at is what we witnessed you do. If we notice a big discrepancy, then we'll have to have a conversation about that. But this is really, there isn't a huge necessity as far as numbers, so it's not like you're striving to get individual numbers. We're really trying to keep track of how many times you've done a particular skill in the program so that we can identify any lacking areas where you haven't had enough time to practice. So really this is for your benefit a lot more than it's for our benefit. So I encourage you, and I will be requiring you to create these lab sessions and submitting them. It's up to you to keep track of them, and we'll kind of do an internal informal audit for accuracy. So I hope that helped. If you have any problems, come back and watch this video again. There will be other videos on other topics coming soon.